The approach for the KI second cycle rotational program is certainly unique. It's unlike traditional leveled programs of the Quebec Ministry or any other for that matter. So, your teacher guides are going to be your most crucial tool to help direct and support you in teaching this program. The guides have been created and organized to be as user-friendly as possible. As new teachers, you'll likely use the guide almost like a recipe book, following them closely. However, once you're comfortable with the program and confident with the subject matter, like an experienced chef in his own kitchen, you can get creative, bring your own style and knowledge to class. Then these guides will become a simple reference. In Block F, for the large LESs, Sink or Swim and It's a Wild, Wild World, the guides begin with an introduction that includes an introductory explanation of the project. There's the layout of Block F and a cool timeline for the project, laid out for you to follow, almost like a yellow brick road. You'll find a description of the context and content, some resources, and an important materials list for the project. These items should be available already in the labs. And there'll be a description of the evaluation. For the project and any experiments or activities, the guide follows the student book page by page. Included with each student page, you'll find some teaching strategies, answers to all the questions, instructions for related introductory experiments and activities surrounding building the project itself, and of course a page with rubrics, which will follow any page with questions or areas to be evaluated. For the essential knowledge sections of the student booklet, the setup in the guide is more condensed. All the units in each section of essential knowledge are summarized on one page in the guide. With this rotation, there'll always be 2.1 students entering the rotation for the first time. Obviously, they will not have seen any content from the previous rotations. Consequently, we had to ensure that foundational scientific information is repeated in more than one rotation. These foundational concepts should be approached as an introduction for the 2.1 students and a short review for 2.2 and 2.3 students. As a teacher, how do you know what content is foundational and what content is critical for this block of the rotation? To make it clear and simple to identify and follow, any concepts described here in black font are foundational, and they will not require as much teaching time and attention. The most critical concepts for this block will always be noted in red font. These are the concepts that will be the focus of Block F final exam, in particular Part A of the C2 portion. The other but somewhat less critical concepts are always noted in green font. In this way, you're always immediately directed as to where to focus your instruction. After each essential knowledge summary page, you'll find some resources and suggested activities for the specific concepts covered in that section. At the end of the guide are the appendixes that include the glossary of vocabulary terms, like the one at the end of the student booklet. There are answers to any puzzles or exercises found in the essential knowledge sections of the student booklet. And finally, printable evaluation tables and grids for the whole class, and the student grids identical to the ones at the end of the student books. The small LESs are similarly organized, with a brief introduction including a timetable and evaluation description. There are teaching strategies and answers to all the questions, etc., for the pages of knowledge. You'll also have instructions for the activity in each booklet. And of course, a rubrics page that follows any pages with evaluation. Finally, there's a glossary and evaluation grids. The KI program follows the QEP competencies. Effectively, Competency 1 is the practical part of science, the knowledge that comes from experiments and hands-on activities. Competency 2 is the theoretical knowledge students need to apply to a particular situation. The evaluation in the KI program differs from the QEP by including essential knowledge. This is intended to replace Competency 3, the use of scientific language, which would be disadvantageous to our second language students who struggle with reading and comprehension. Essential knowledge is meant to demonstrate students' basic acquisition of science concepts. Competency 1 and 2 are evaluated like the QEP with the same 4 criteria. The questions or areas of evaluation are already predetermined and identified by the competency and specific criteria in the student book and the respective guide. The weighting for each of the 2 competencies is 40%. Essential knowledge is weighted at 20%. A percentage for essential knowledge is only applied for term marks. To determine a mark for essential knowledge, you'll have the liberty to use any questions or areas in the student booklet not already specified for competency evaluation, or any extra exercise sheets or in-class activities, quizzes, or homework. The weighting for the year is Term 1, 25%, Term 2, 25%, Term 3, 20%, and the final exam, 30%. Marking the competencies is simple. The student books have small marking grids that identify the competency and criterion. You can quickly mark the grids for the question or area on a regular basis. For the full evaluation pages at the end of the student booklets, you can note the marks immediately, or you can complete the evaluation pages at the end of the project. Whenever there's a page with questions or areas to be evaluated, the following page will contain the rubrics. The organization of the guides ensure that both pages open to be visible together to make it easy to follow, no having to flip pages. There are 2 versions of individual student evaluation calculation grids. Here is the first. My preference is this second one because it's visually clear to identify where and how the competencies and criteria have been evaluated. There'll also be a class evaluation calculator for the competency evaluation and an evaluation calculator for essential knowledge provided in the student book. You'll also have a general weighting summary. The ministry requires that all Quebec students must have a minimum of 4 science credits from the Secondary 4 Science and Technology course to graduate high school, including a ministry exam. Since the concepts for this course, as well as the Secondary 3 ministry course, are spread out equitably over a 3-year rotation, KI students receive 8 science credits. Considering that the credits for the Ministry ST course cannot be assigned to any one specific block, students receive 4 optional science credits for the block completed at the 2.2 level, and then the required 4 science and technology credits for the block completed at the 2.3 level. It does not matter which way the rotation has transpired for those credits to be applied. Consequently, the appropriate course codes are assigned by level, regardless of the block of the rotation. Although no ministry credits are given at the Secondary 3 level, all students must pass all 3 levels of the rotation to graduate and have their science credits.